Now, outside of brand growth and additional customers, could you explain in what ways that fish processing and meat processing complement each other?
Yeah, it's interesting. You think of, maybe meat and seafood could not be further apart, but we find that there's more similarities than there are differences. You do talk about sort of brand growth and additional customers, and those are important to have sort of a holistic, offering that makes customers, experience easy. Which could be, only one invoice, less vendors, more comprehensive offerings. But what we're seeing is first and foremost, it's the customer persona, like the type of customer who buys from Seattle Fish Company is very similar to the type of customer that buys from Lombardi Meat. So, that is, I think a way that both fish and meat complement each other, right? And so maybe not just on the processing side, but very common customers with the same values, the same, value propositions and the same needs. The second, from a production standpoint, meat and fish are not dissimilar. You're taking, whole animals. You're working with best in class producers and those ranchers, and we call them farmers and fishers, in the seafood world. But there's, just a real strict adherence towards making sure your vetting supply comes from who you're dealing with, the ethos of those people that are involved in the animal husbandry. And then from the processing standpoint, there's a whole lot of similarities, both in terms of, craftsmen butchers that are breaking down, sort of whole animals or cutting things into steaks for the eventual end user, making sure that we're maximizing yield or optimizing yield is probably a better way of saying it. And then, at the end of the day, making sure that we're able to not just offer, subprimals and large cuts, but, making sure that we're able to offer a product that takes labor out of restaurants or is really appealing from a customer standpoint inside the sort of inside a store or retail environment. So a lot of similarities. I mean, it's just, one's underwater, one's over water. But I think between terrestrial protein and some of this either aquaculture or wild capture fishery on the production and distribution side, a lot of similarities.
All right, and with the acquisition of Lombardi Brothers, what are the biggest challenges and obstacles that you face as a company?
Yeah, there's a few. I think the first is maybe changing mindset of buyers in our market that, I don't just buy my meat from a meat guy, my fish from a fish company. So really making sure that customers understand, maybe similar to the conversation we just had, that these proteins are much more similar than they are dissimilar. And then we can add the same value, Seattle Fish Company and Lombardi together, that either one had done sort of independently. So, we're able to really effectively sort of drop, cost of production, cost of distribution, and pass that value on to sort of our customers. I think the other challenge that we have is around sustainability or responsible sourcing. And in seafood, we're pretty used to, a fairly high degree of scrutiny when it comes to, bycatch, when it comes to, just sustainability of some of the product, when it comes down to, um, mortality, mercury, illegal fishing. There's a whole host of issues that we manage from our seafood sort of supply. And a lot of like NGOs or conservation organizations that are involved in that rating system. I think meat is a little bit different, but has the same goals. And so, for example, we had one of our representatives attend sort of a conservation sort of meeting, and it was this meeting of Protein Pact, which is a group of sort of companies coming back together, meat companies, and self-reporting, and really trying to work on the things that are important both for our world, also important for those that are inside sort of the industry. So, climate change becomes one of those that, especially young buyers, millennials and Gen Z, are really interested in terms of factoring into their buying decisions. So I think that's, maybe not a sort of a challenge, and challenges aren't bad things, challenges are good things. So maybe this is a good sort of challenge, is something we relish, which is, continuing to tell the story around, responsible, not just aquaculture and wild capture fishery, but now sort of all terrestrial, proteins, whether that be regenerative agriculture, whether that be land use, whether that be water use. So I think maybe those are sort of the two biggest challenges. One is maybe a positioning, and the second one is much more, I think it's just really compelling because it allows us to kind of come in, learn a new industry, and then maybe apply what we've learned from the seafood world into sort of the new terrestrial protein world, and then drive that down to what consumers, customers, and restaurateurs kind of need as they engage with some of their folks and get some of the questions.